Imagine facing the unthinkable, your beloved mother critically ill with no hope in sight. This was the billionaire's painful reality, until a surprising suggestion surfaced. A maid, often overlooked, offered a piece of advice so unconventional it defied logic. Yet, it saved a life and profoundly impacted a family. But what she said that night would change everything Michael thought he knew about healing, love, and the woman who raised him. Michael stood in the hospital hallway, his expensive shoes squeaking against the cold floor. His mother, Elena, was dying. The doctors had said it 3 times now, each time with sadder eyes. Her heart was giving up. The machines beeped slower each day like a clock running out of time. He was a billionaire. He owned hotels, restaurants, and buildings that touched the clouds. People called him Sir. They bowed when he walked past, but none of that mattered now. Money couldn't buy what he needed most, more time with his mom. "Mr. Michael," the doctor said, touching his shoulder gently, "we've done everything we can. Her body is shutting down. I'm so sorry." Michael's hand shook. "There has to be something. Another treatment, another specialist. I'll pay anything." The doctor looked at the floor. "It's not about money anymore. Her heart is tired. She's been fighting for 3 months. Maybe it's time to let her rest." Let her rest. Those words felt like knives in his chest. He walked into her room and sat beside her bed. Elena looked so small under the white sheets. Her face was pale, her breathing soft and struggling. Tubes ran from her arms. Monitors blinked red and green. "Mom," he whispered, holding her cold hand, "please don't leave me." She didn't open her eyes. Michael had been sleeping at the hospital for weeks. His big house sat empty across the city. But his maid, Rosa, still came every day to clean, to keep things ready for when he came home, if he ever did. Rosa was 60 years old, with kind eyes and rough hands from years of hard work. She had worked for Michael's family since he was a boy. She wasn't just a maid, she was family. But Michael had been so busy building his empire that he'd forgotten to see her that way. That night, Rosa came to the hospital with soup she'd made at home. She knocked softly on the door. "Mr. Michael, I brought you food." "I'm not hungry, Rosa." "You haven't eaten in 2 days. Please." He looked up at her, his eyes red from crying. Rosa set the soup down and looked at Elena on the bed. Something crossed her face. Recognition, sadness, and something else Michael couldn't name. "May I sit?" Rosa asked. Michael nodded. Rosa pulled a chair close and stared at Elena for a long moment. Then she did something strange. She stood up and walked to the window, opening it wide. Cold night air rushed in. A nurse passing by frowned and closed it immediately. "Mrs. Rosa, patients need warmth," the nurse said firmly. But Rosa shook her head. "She needs air, fresh air, and sun, and dirt under her feet." Michael blinked. "What?" Rosa turned to him with serious eyes. "When I was a girl in my village, my grandmother got very sick, just like this. The doctors gave up, but my mother didn't. She took grandmother out of the hospital, put her in the garden, let her feel the earth and breathe real air. In 2 weeks, grandmother was walking again." "Rosa, that's just a story," Michael said gently. "It's not a story, it's truth." Rosa stepped closer. "Your mother is dying here, Mr. Michael, in this cold room with machines and sad faces. Her soul is tired, but maybe her body just needs to remember what living feels like." Michael wanted to argue. This was crazy talk, unscientific, dangerous even. But then he looked at his mother. She was dying anyway. The doctors had given up. What did he have to lose? "What exactly are you saying I should do?" he asked slowly. Rosa took a deep breath. "Take her home. Put her bed by the big window where the morning sun comes in. Open the windows. Let her hear birds. Put plants around her. Play the music she loved when she was young. Let her smell flowers, fresh bread, life. Not medicine. Not death. The doctors will never allow it." "The doctors have already said goodbye," Rosa replied quietly. "Now you must choose. Let her die here in this bright white room, or let her die at home wrapped in love and memories." Those words hit Michael like a punch. He looked at his mother again. How many times had she told him about her garden when he was little, about how she loved the smell of roses and the sound of rain? When was the last time she'd felt sunshine? He'd brought her to the best hospital, hired the best doctors, bought the most expensive treatments, but he'd never once asked what she wanted. That night, Michael made the craziest decision of his life. He signed his mother out of the hospital against medical advice. The doctors warned him, the nurses shook their heads, but he didn't care anymore. He brought Elena home in an ambulance, hired a private nurse, and turned his huge, empty house into something else entirely. Rosa took charge like a general going to war. She moved Elena's bed to the sunroom where giant windows let in golden morning light. She opened every window in the house, despite the nurses' protests. She filled the room with flowers, roses, lilies, jasmine, until the air smelled like a garden. She brought in plants, some with dirt still on their roots. "She needs to smell the earth," Rosa said firmly. Michael watched in amazement as Rosa transformed the space. She hung wind chimes that sang soft songs. She put speakers near Elena's bed and played old jazz music, the kind Elena used to dance to when Michael's father was alive. The nurse thought they were all insane, but Michael helped. He remembered things about his mother he'd buried under years of business meetings and profit reports. He remembered she loved birds, so he hung bird feeders outside the windows. Within days, sparrows and blue jays came, chirping and singing. He remembered she loved the smell of baking bread, so Rosa baked fresh bread every morning, the house filled with that warm honey smell. He sat by her bed and read her favorite books out loud, even though she never opened her eyes. He played her favorite movies on a screen across from her bed. And he talked to her, really talked, the way he hadn't since he was a child. "Mom, I'm sorry," he whispered one evening, holding her hand. "I got so busy trying to make you proud that I forgot to just be with you. I bought you things, but I never asked what you really wanted. I'm so sorry." The machines beeped steadily. Elena didn't move. Days passed, then a week. The nurse checked Elena's vitals every day and shook her head sadly. "There's no change, Mr. Michael. I'm sorry." But Rosa just smiled. She said, "Wait." Michael didn't know what he was waiting for. His mother looked the same, pale, still, barely breathing. But something felt different in the house. It felt alive. On the 10th day, Michael was reading to his mother when he felt her hand twitch. He stopped mid-sentence, his heart pounding. "Mom."
Her fingers moved again, squeezing his hand so softly he almost missed it. "Mom!" He jumped up, calling for the nurse. The nurse came running. She checked Elena's vitals, her eyes going wide. "Her heart rate is stronger. Her oxygen levels are up. I don't understand." Rosa was standing in the doorway, tears running down her face, smiling. Over the next 3 days, something impossible happened. Elena's color started returning. Her breathing got deeper, steadier. On the 13th day, her eyes fluttered open. "Michael?" she whispered, her voice dry and cracked. "Mom! Oh my God, Mom, you're awake!" Where am I?" "You're home, Mom. You're home." Elena looked around slowly, taking in the sunlight, the flowers, the birds outside the window. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I can hear birds," she whispered. "I can smell roses." Yes, Mom. Yes, you can. She looked at Rosa, who was crying in the doorway. Rosa, is that you? Yes, Miss Elena, Rosa said, coming forward. Welcome back. Over the next month, Elena grew stronger. The doctor came to check on her and couldn't believe what he saw. Her heart was healing. Her body was fighting back. By week 6, she was sitting up, eating solid food, even laughing at bad jokes. This is medically impossible, the doctor said, shaking his head. Her heart was shutting down. She shouldn't be here. Michael looked at Rosa, who just smiled softly. 3 months later, Elena was walking in the garden Michael had built for her in the backyard. Real dirt, real flowers. She wore a sun hat and gloves, planting tomatoes with Rosa beside her. Michael watched them from the porch, his chest tight with emotions he couldn't name. That evening, after Rosa had gone home, Michael sat with his mother on the porch as the sun set. Mom, he said quietly, the doctors called your recovery a miracle. They said there's no scientific explanation. Elena smiled, touching a rose petal gently. Maybe science doesn't know everything. Rosa's advice, taking you out of the hospital, bringing you home, the garden, the music, the smells, it saved your life. The doctors were ready to give up, but she knew something they didn't. Elena looked at him with those wise eyes he'd loved his whole life. Rosa understood something important, sweetheart. She understood that healing isn't just about medicine, it's about living. I was dying in that hospital not just because my heart was weak, but because my soul was giving up. Nothing there reminded me why I wanted to stay alive. But here I could smell the roses your father planted for me on our anniversary. I could hear the birds we used to watch together. I could feel the sun on my face, the same sun I held when you were a baby. I remembered what it felt like to be alive, and that made me want to fight. Michael's eyes filled with tears. I almost lost you because I thought money and fancy hospitals were the answer. I forgot to ask what you needed. Elena took his hand. You learned, baby, that's what matters. And you treated Rosa like family. You listened to her. That takes humility. I'm proud of you. She's the real hero here. Then make sure she knows that. The next day, Michael called Rosa into his office. She came nervously, wiping her hands on her apron. Did I do something wrong, Mr. Michael? Sit down, Rosa, please. She sat, looking worried. Michael opened a folder on his desk. Inside was a deed. Rosa, you've worked for my family for 35 years. You've been more than a maid. You've been family. You raised me when my parents were working. You taught me kindness when the world taught me greed. And you saved my mother's life when everyone else, including me, had given up. Rosa's eyes went wide. I just did what felt right. I know, and that's exactly why I'm doing this. He slid the deed across the desk. This is the house 3 blocks from here, the one you always said had the prettiest garden. It's yours. Paid in full, no mortgage, no rent. Yours forever. Rosa stared at the paper, her hands shaking. Mr. Michael, I can't. You can. You will. And there's more. He pulled out another paper. This is a retirement fund. Enough money so you never have to work another day in your life. You can plant gardens, visit your grandchildren, do whatever makes you happy. You've earned it. Tears poured down Rosa's face. Why? Why would you do this? Michael's voice cracked. Because you saw my mother as a human being when everyone else saw a dying patient. You remembered that healing comes from love, not just medicine. You taught me the most important lesson of my life, that the most valuable things can't be bought. They can only be given freely, with love. Rosa covered her face and sobbed. Michael came around the desk and hugged her tight. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you for saving her. Thank you for saving me. That night, Michael sat in the garden with his mother. The stars were out, bright and clear. Elena was wrapped in a blanket, stronger now, her cheeks pink with life. You know what the strangest part is, Michael said? I spent my whole life chasing success, building an empire, making millions, then billions.
I thought that was power. But Rosa, who had nothing, had more wisdom than I ever did. She knew something doctors with fancy degrees didn't know. She knew that people need more than medicine. They need hope, beauty, love, connection to the earth and sky and each other. She knew, Elena said softly, because she never forgot where she came from. She stayed close to the simple truths while you and everyone else got lost in complexity. I won't forget again, Michael promised. I'm going to live differently now. I'm going to remember what actually matters. Elena smiled, squeezing his hand. That's my boy. 6 months after that terrible night in the hospital, Elena was completely healed. The doctors couldn't explain it. They wrote papers about her case, calling it spontaneous recovery. But Michael knew the truth. Love healed her. Beauty healed her. Memory and music and sunshine and dirt healed her. And a maid named Rosa, who everyone overlooked, who everyone underestimated, saved a life by remembering the oldest truth in the world. We're not just bodies to be fixed. We're souls that need reasons to stay. Michael never forgot that lesson. He started spending less time in boardrooms and more time with people. He funded community gardens in every neighborhood his company touched. He built parks and planted trees. He created programs to make sure elderly people in hospitals could go outside, hear music, feel the sun. And every Sunday, he had dinner with his mother and Rosa in the garden they'd built together. Because some advice can't be found in textbooks or medical journals. Sometimes the wisest words come from the humblest hearts. Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who can see what we've gone blind to. And sometimes a dying woman just needs to smell roses one more time to remember why living is worth the fight. So what do you think? Did Rosa's unconventional advice prove that healing requires more than just medicine? Have you ever experienced a moment where simple wisdom changed everything? Share your thoughts below, and if this story touched your heart, subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Because sometimes the most powerful truths come from the most unexpected places.